Hey everybody, welcome back. Doing another Marvel Future Revolution video. In this one, are the devs ready to fix Dark Zone? Are they looking for some sort of improvement methods in this? We're going to talk about what we'd want to do here in anticipation of the hope that this is going to be something that happens. It's clearly one of their game modes that they really leaned into and hoped that people would be participating in. And I've got a whole bunch of stuff that I want to get into. Got some of it from some other folks, Dirk, Half Send, Inep. I've been talking to some people. I'm hoping to do some collabs with Half on this one. We were planning on doing it a while ago. I'm doing this video now just to get some of the stuff out, but you'll see more of this in the future. Let me know in the comments below which one of these ideas you like, or if there's any ideas that we didn't touch upon here that maybe you would like to see. All right, so let's get to it.
Bring me WolverThor!
All right, Spidey's just going to be kind of flying around in the background, similar to my video from the other day. So, all right, how to fix Dark Zone, things we want. All right, so one of the things, before I get into a lot of specifics, there's a couple huge problems with Dark Zone, in my mind, is that there's a time limitation when people can go in there, meaning hours of the day, and regardless of what server you're on, you might have work hours that don't allow for that as well. Okay, so we've got people on our server who should be able to make that time normally if you work a normal day, what's normal, but they work nights. So they can no longer do that anymore, which sort of stinks, right? Now, you sometimes then also have people in other parts of the world that might be on your server too because you've played with them in other games, etc. So that's one of the big problems. Another problem is that people just don't have a lot of fun in there. They just don't have a good time. They either are going in solo or they're going in with a small group and maybe they run into a giant alliance and just get smashed. My alliance is one of those big alliances, and we move around. We call it the Swarm, and we just try to plow through anything in our way, and that's it. Like we attempt to let some folks say, "Hey, dodge in, dodge out, tap," but if you're in there too long, you're gonna die. And then if people actually come at us, we'll go with them. So if you don't have a lot of that power or a giant swarm like that, you're not gonna have fun because you just get kind of hosed, right? Another part is the rewards. The rewards are just, anyway. So we're going to talk about a bunch of this stuff as we go through it. So one of the first things I want to talk about, in my opinion, is I think they actually need to do less time in Dark Zone. And what I mean by that is not an hour. I think it should be down to 20 to 30 minutes per night. With all of the other game modes that they've got in game right now, including the friendly duels, Dark Zone is like a giant... And Alliance raids, since Alliance raids are every night, you've got Dark Zone every night, Alliance raid every night, and you've got all of these other things you got to do with your dailies, including when invasion's around. So I don't love, and that leaves no room for playing around with all this. I'm getting my battle challenge score up, getting my spec ops score up, doing friendly duels, leveling all our characters maybe that I want to play, or just theory crafting with my friends and doing stuff. Like some of that stuff is fun to do. I don't want to just do dailies every day for 4 hours or whatever it might be. So my recommendation is either just have Dark Zone 2 to 3 times per week, or only have it 20 to 30 minutes per night. I personally, and as a working, father and husband, I think that is something I'm looking for as well. All right, now I mentioned this before, but the rewards are terrible. They're just terrible. I've mentioned this in other videos. Half Sends is one of the people who are following this, but we've gotten people who've landed in the first position in Dark Zone for weeks upon weeks upon weeks, and they didn't receive one badge that was worth using. I think at one point Half Send had one, and then they introduced the special badges. So they need to get rid of these Dark Zone badges in my mind, or improve them to be something specific that they think is good. Because right now nobody cares about them, and it's even if you finish first, it's so hard to get them. Nobody cares enough to try. One of the things that, again, I talk about this a lot, but there's a lot of RNG even if you do get those badges. So even if you get one, it's going to be bad. So what I'm thinking of is, what about some costumes? A 5-star for first place. Maybe 2 to 4 boxes. Give more boxes for top 100. I just think those are the type of things that can be more advantageous, that people will become interested in doing the zone. I don't know. And we'll talk on the PvE versus PvP zones. I've got some thoughts on that. I'll probably we'll see. I don't know. I still kind of jump around a little bit. So I talked about the rewards a little bit. Let's see what else we got here. Less time I talked about. Let's see. Oh, and one of the things that I talk about with, the rewards and time, the reason that my alliance does it so much is because, and that we enjoy Dark Zone, is because we are all, for the most part, all on voice together. And we coordinate and we just enjoy our time in there. And obviously we're a stronger alliance. And so it's, we can compete. We had at one point 3 or 4 alliances trying to fight us and competing in there. I think that, our ability to be able to do that made that fun. And that was actually one of the more fun times we've ever had in Dark Zone. So there was something to that where you can fight. You got a bunch of people fighting and feeling good that they could compete against each other. Already talked about the less time, but one of the things that, like I've mentioned, is I've only got my familiarity with my server. And I'm guessing that all servers are dominated by the strongest alliances, right? I don't think that is some stretch to think about. So I've wondered about what it would be like to sort of try and even that playing field a little bit. At one point, I thought about being able to make sort of temporary treaties. I don't like that because part of that will be well, let me say that differently. What I worry about with that is, because I like it, but I worry about the fact that it'll become too political and it'll cause too much drama. And when there's too much drama in games, that also causes people to leave. A game shouldn't be stressful. These games are meant to be fun, but it seems like a lot of times we're dealing with stress and drama more than we're dealing with the games. So, and I think that Hafson and I were talking about this, and I forget exactly how it evolved, but essentially, what if there was something that was automatically put in place where, there was essentially, for simplicity's sake, a red and a blue team. And those red and blue teams could be, or a red, blue, and a yellow team. You know what I mean? For anybody who played Pokemon Go out there. And those teams you don't necessarily pick a team, but it's randomly given to you. It could be based on alliance rankings. It could be based on, whenever certain people come into a zone, but it's alliance based on that. I don't know, but there'd be something nice about that where it's like, oh, I don't need to, because when you party up with somebody, you can only party up with 4 people. And if you're with 2 or 3 alliance mates and a straggler comes in or 2 stragglers come in, you can only accept 1 or 2 of them in your groups. And I do that a lot of times when I'm running with some alliance mates late and I see somebody who's maybe just working on a mini or a prime. I'm definitely trying to get it so that they, can run with us and have a good chance of beating whatever we're all beating together. So what if the first alliance in rank, and this might be the only way to do this, but when the first alliance, you'd pair up alliances in a sort of like a snake draft. And depending how many teams you have, I wouldn't have more than 3, but you have 2 to 3 teams, red, blue, and yellow. And the first would be blue, the second would be red, the third would be yellow, the fourth would be yellow, the fifth would be whatever I said second was, the sixth would be whatever I said first was. And then you just sort of snake through there and try to balance it out as best you can. And it's just automatic. It just happens. So anytime you're around those people in Dark Zone, you can't fight each other. Now, I would like an option that you can turn that ability off individually as a player. Not as an alliance, but as a player. If you want to fight anybody you want to fight in there, and you want to be on any team, then you just take it off. Now, the problem with that could be is, can they code that so it doesn't apply to your alliance mates as well? I don't know. Hopefully they can do that. But I think there's something to that, where that if you could make this feel like a bigger team in there, and you'd allow some of these smaller powered players to come in and still have fun and be able to fight with people and get bosses, I think that at its foundation could be a gigantic avenue to make this game mode way more popular. Way more popular. The rewards and the time, I think, will still matter, but something like this is more at the foundation to get people to actually play it and be interested in it. I mostly want to know from you guys in the comments below about a conversation like that. So please do let me know about this specific point. I've got other points in there, but this one in particular, I want to hear about this one from you guys in the comments below. The PvE zone. So I struggle with this. I'm not going to lie to you guys. So all your free-to-play folk out there, please bear with me here. Originally, I hated this zone. Then I was like, maybe it's not so bad. And then I thought about it again when talking, and I was like, maybe this zone's fine. One of the things I always think about is when they had this zone, when we would personally go in there as an alliance, it was empty. No one was ever in there. And people who would want we would be in the PvP zones and we'd kill somebody because they were on our boss or whatever, they attacked somebody. And they go, I'm just trying to get my cards. And it was like, this isn't the zone for that. You just entered a boxing ring and got mad that your opponent hit you. Like, that's what that is. If you don't want to be in the boxing ring, go over there. Go to the grocery store where no one should be fighting you. And that's what the PvE zones are. So I struggle with that a little bit. I'm not against it per se, but I think that I personally, if this was my game, I would try the concept where I could pair people up in a random fashion, like the red, yellow, and blue teams, before I would do the PvE zone again, because nobody was in there when we did it. So anyway, one of the other ideas that I personally really like is the idea of a super prime. There should be a chance for a super prime. Maybe there's 100% chance for this thing to spawn after 4 to 5 primes are killed, or 6 depending how much time is in you allow people to play. I don't know. I think this has got to be something that takes a ton of firepower. Like, groups have to ultimately work together to do this. And there's part of me also wonders if you could make this something that, well, depending who wins the night or wins the week, maybe they get to fight a super prime at the end of the week or something. I don't know, but that becomes a little bit more complicated. But I like the idea of where it takes a ton of firepower, and it always drops a reward, always, and it's going to be 1 to 2 times per day. Some suggestions for the reward is that everyone who does a certain amount of damage gets, a certain number of crystals. Okay, that's one thing. Also have it how it will always drop either gear and/or cards, and give it a % chance to do regional and rare, like a 5 to 10% chance for regional and rare cards, and then have a % chance. And I know Netmarble's not going to like this % chance, but have 1 to 5% chance for a special gear or special card. And there's a lot of special gear and cards, so you can divide those percentages up amongst it. But if you only get 1 to 2 chances per day, and it's only 1 to 5% chance to get, how many are people really getting? You know what I mean? So it's not like a bunch of people are going to start running around with, 7 nano specials on everything, right? And given that there's not squad-based card systems, you need special cards on like all your tunes. So I don't know. I think that's something that, look, I promise people would come out for something like that. If people can survive in there, and, maybe that's the team mode concept, right? And they have the chance to get something like that, it would be huge. But the key part is the drop rates have to be reasonable. Okay, so make sure that if this is something they consider, drop rates definitely have to be reasonable. And again, let me know on this idea too. How would you expand this? Do you like this as a random chance, after 4, 5, or 6 primes to spawn that it shows up? Or do you want this to be something like if you get, a certain amount of points per day, maybe this is the right answer, is if you get a certain amount of points, per day, then the next day you are allowed to, at a certain time, everybody goes in to fight a super prime. And it's kind of like, okay, and nobody can fight each other, but everybody gets the chance to go beat up that super prime. But you have to do a certain amount of dark zone to be able to do it. I don't know, thought. Now for me, separate topic, as a widow and a walker, it is terrible to get around in dark zone. Terrible. Like, I can be running and sprinting nonstop and I can't keep up with flyers. The automatic routing in there is still terrible. It is taking me around bushes and around ramps. Like, I'm in the fountain and I want to go up to what we call northeast. And it goes, it goes to the west, it goes up, it goes around a bush, just to get on some path. It's like, meanwhile, a flyer just like, direct line. So give Widow and Captain America, and Magic's probably fine because she can get around pretty easily. Like a jetpack or a speed boost just within that zone when not attacking, when you're just running or something. I don't know. You got to consider something like that. I would also consider additional rare drop type things, like maybe you can get a 4-star core from primes at a rate of 30%, a 5-star one at 5 to 10%, maybe a 6-star one at like 1%, 1 to 3%. I don't know. I consider adding something like that. I also like the idea of an earlier 1 to 2 hour window for Dark Zone. Like I mentioned earlier, some people are in different time zones. Some people work different shifts. So having something earlier in the day for people so that they can actually go in there and do Dark Zone would be advantageous. Or maybe it's late at night for them, whatever. I'm just saying 12 hours apart. You know what I mean? Take some of that nighttime and have some. And I actually think a 5-hour window is still too much. I don't know. I mean, anyway, I would take a couple hours and have them in 12 hours difference from when we have it now, because I just think there's some people who can't do it. Some of these are from Dirk. So again, shout out to Dirk. He was talking about grindability, making sure you can get 7 minis, 2 primes, but beyond that, add a % drop rate so that motivation to do as many as possible is still there. So, maybe when you get a prime, you could still have a chance to get something from them. It's not just points. I think that's a good idea. Maybe a small amount of gold. Ultimately, what this comes down to is wanting people to be in there for more than just the ranking. Make the time worth it. All right, I talked about this one in acres, less time. Just in general, I think he's talking about would mean less conflict as people would space out easier. Probably no. I think it's less of a window and less time in there. So if you're going to decrease the time to 20 or 30 minutes, that means you need to shrink the window by the same percentage. That coalition option or some treaty option. He liked that idea, thought it was interesting. Was not a fan of the PvE zone, but it does give people more primes to kill. I don't know. That's something that could be interesting. One of the concepts that he threw out there is he thought about channels with different levels, meaning like a level 100, it's PvE and low rewards, a level 120, which is a PvP and the current rewards. Then there's a level 150 with a PvP and extra rewards. And then a level 180, and it's like PvP best rewards, highest challenge. This is similar to what we're doing with the battle challenge at the moment. The only problem potentially or a problem with this one could be your spread. Again, we want people to be able to force on each other and fight. This becomes more of a PvE type scenario where it might be difficult to get people to actually conflict with each other. So one of the things he talked about when we were talking about super primes is he likes the idea of duo primes, similar to what they're doing in some of these battle challenges. That could be something that'd be option. We'll see. The idea of higher rates were good. The idea of a zone swap cooldown timer, he didn't like that. I do kind of wonder about that a little bit. What is the point of it? It's a minute. Like, why even have it at all? What we do is we just leave Dark Zone to circumvent it. If you're within a cooldown, it's kind of like, all right, just leave Dark Zone and enter the new spot. So you just get around it. You know what I mean? So, and then one big thing he also mentioned is fodder. Need more fodder. It needs to be a source for fodder, right? He also was really big on what he called like a special spawn. And they did this in the Dark Domain where they had corrupted versions of Storm, Captain America, Captain Marvel. The idea is similar where if you've got, like, maybe you do it with whoever's got the highest squad rank on the server, is that they become a corrupted prime in the game, in Dark Zone. And that they are really hard to beat. You're just fighting a Captain America or an Iron Man or whatever you're fighting. But it'd be interesting to do and be kind of fun to, like, promote that the person who's going for that gold star above their head. One more reason to get it, right? Again, want reasons for people to push and do things. So, and one of the things that Nap and I were talking about quite a bit was this concept of like controlling the map. This is a completely different, and this is another one I'd love to hear from you guys on. Is that again? And I like this concept on this is because the reason I like it is that you could really do some fun stuff, some fun things here. And what I mean by that is if you lean into the red, blue, and yellow teams, for argument's sake, and the zone has, I don't know if I like the idea of a 24-hour zone because that's just too much effort. But if you have them, two time slots 12 hours apart, earlier in the day and later in the day, where you have limited time to be in there, but you're working to try to control certain parts of the map. I used to play a game called Guild Wars 2. He mentioned a game called Star Wars Galaxy, where there were efforts where you'd have to control areas. You'd have to fight for a fortress and control it and send resources out to some of the other fortresses. And people could hijack those, wagons and stuff going from base to base. I don't know exactly how you do it in this game mode, but I like that idea where if you do control that map and you have to send certain things out to check on things, but a free to play, guerrilla squad of 2 to 3 players can take out your resources going from point A to point B. That matters. So it makes somebody who is a free to play type care. Now, this is a completely different concept than everything else I was already talking about. But I do think something like this could be super, super cool. It's it could be a King of the Hill type situation, but it ultimately is about controlling the map. Now, only the first 30 minutes is the regular rewards in this situation, and then maybe the rest of it if you keep an hour. But again, with all the other game modes going, you got to think about how much time you're asking people to spend in game. So I did like this idea because I think it could really make people work together. You get the red, blue, and yellow teams. You try to, the only hard part would be is if you do red, yellow, and blue teams, how do you talk about that if you're not all in the same alliance? You'd probably have to add a team chat in game for the week. So it's hey, red team, all of a sudden you're automatically in the red chat for that week that you can see in game, which I would find to be very interesting. You couldn't really do it on Discord, but in game you could do it a little bit, which sometimes that's hard. So I don't know. It's something to think about, but I think it's cool. I like the idea behind it. I thought it was neat to talk about. I definitely want to see if there's other ideas that are out there. So like I mentioned, come to the Discord, chat about that a little bit, comment below. I know this was a longer video, but I just think this is something that, the devs could be looking to improve this. So we need to get our ideas to them. So please, please, please comment below. Chat on the Discord about it. If you like what you see here or are interested in any sort of the videos that I do, you can check out my playlist on my YouTube channel. Share with your aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, grandma, grandpas, neighbors. Appreciate you for that. Hammer down like buttons, click notification bells, subscribe. And until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day.